It's been a day full of remembrances in commemoration of the worst attack on American democracy, frontally at least, since the Civil War. But as President Joe Biden noted in a speech delivered in Statuary Hall at the Capitol, in order to really comprehend what happened 1 year ago, you have to bring yourself back to the terror of that day.
Do you hold former President Trump personally responsible? Are you praying for former President Trump?
The Bible tells us that we shall know the truth, and the truth shall make us free. We shall know the truth. Well, here is the God's truth about January 6, 2021. Close your eyes. Go back to that day. What do you see? Rioters rampaging, waving for the first time inside this Capitol. Confederate flag that symbolized the cause to destroy America. What else do you see? A mob breaking windows, kicking in doors, breaching the Capitol. American flags on poles being used as weapons, as spears. Fire extinguishers being thrown at the heads of police officers. We saw with our own eyes. Rioters menaced these halls, threatening the life of the Speaker of the House, literally erecting gallows to hang the Vice President of the United States of America.
Can I speak to Pelosi? Yeah, we're coming. Oh, my kids, we're coming for you too.
They've got the gallows set outside this Capitol building. It's time to start using them.
Start making a list, put all those names down, and we start hunting them down one by one.
We've had a disbursement of tear gas in the rotunda. Please be advised there are masks under your seats. Please grab a mask, place it in your lap, and be prepared to don your mask in the event that we get a breach.
When the order came to evacuate, I stayed behind for a while until two Republicans came up to me. One of them said, "You can't let them see you. I know these people. I can talk to these people. I can talk my way through these people."
I remember every moment vividly. I viscerally feel the pounding on the gallery doors.
We want Trump! We want Trump!
No violence!
It's too late for that.
I hear the shot ringing out. I replay how I made plans to use my gas mask and my cane, newly at my side from a 5-week-old knee replacement surgery.
Okay, I can't. I'm done with this right now. Done with this. Okay, so I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this live because, to be fair, I haven't seen these actual photos or videos from January 6th. And that's probably because I don't really believe anything that I watch on television. And so unless I was actually there and experiencing it, I don't really know what I'm watching. Okay. But without bringing to controversy the whole January 6th event, I just want to point out a couple of things, which is, they're mentioning in the beginning that they're holding a vigil for those that died. There's only one person that died on January 6th. I'm not sure why. Well, I do know why. They like to just conflate and confuse and obfuscate, but there was one person that allegedly died, and it was someone that was a quote insurrectionist. Okay. But outside of that, no one died. Nobody died. No one was killed. Nobody died. nor do I believe that anybody was going to be killed. That being said, an insurrection like this is it's obviously scary, but my problem with it is I don't know how much of it was organic. I do think a lot of the lead up to January 6th had to do with QAnon, Q or QAnon. I'll probably get shadow banned now for mentioning that, but I'm doing it anyway. I remember when Q first came out, a lot of people said, "Oh, what's the harm? It's just, research and exposing and etc." But we all know that over time, at least if you followed QAnon, that there was an agenda, and that agenda culminated in January 6th. Ultimately, I think that January 6th and QAnon are Department of Defense operations designed to pacify American patriots or people who felt like there's something very wrong in our country and wanted to fight back. It's sort of like they have to have a built-in release that they control so that people can do things like this, but not actually do real damage to the people who are in charge, the elites. The word controlled opposition comes to mind, and essentially that's what I think happened here. All that said, it did get me thinking because I was watching Destiny. Destiny is a very popular live streamer who is, I just want to say he reminds me of a pubescent child, a prepubescent child, because he gets very, very agitated and emotionally triggered when people disagree with him. He is so set against Donald Trump, becoming elected. He parrots the phrase, he's a threat to our democracy, much like we hear in the media and from politicians, etc. But yet Destiny himself acts like a tyrant, honestly, when you speak to him. Not when you speak to him, but when others speak to him. I haven't spoken to him, but he has such contempt and disdain for Donald Trump, and yet Destiny is a lot like Donald Trump. He uses names to attack people. He calls people names to attack them based on their appearance. He calls them, quote, retarded. He acts a lot like Donald Trump, so I think it's an interesting observation that you can make about somebody like Destiny, who, is to me really just a big virtue signaling crybaby. Because look, he can have his opinions and some of them may be valid. It's hard to listen to them though, because when he was in a debate last night with, I think it was, or I don't know when it was, within the past couple of days, with Lauren Southern and a couple of other people, the way that he debates people is he asks them a question and it's like he's cross-examining them and they can only answer yes or no. That's not how debates really work, in my opinion. But if you agree to go on a show and you want to debate, that's how he behaves. And then if you don't just answer yes or no, the guy like flips the hell out. It's absolutely insane. Okay. So it's comical, actually. I mean, like the guy here, let me just see if I can show you a little bit of what I'm talking about here. Hold on 1 minute. Let's just go to Destiny. Let me go to Destiny. Hold on 1 second. And then I'm just going to get into my ChatGPT because I had a conversation. I love having conversations with ChatGPT because ChatGPT, it's just, answering you questions based on the information available to it. But when you ask certain questions, ChatGPT 100% tries to gaslight, and it's pretty hilarious, actually. So let's just see if we can just get a little bit of an idea of how the city character works. Okay. Let me get to it.
However, the
Okay. Destiny is on the right.
Engaged in Russia collusion hoax, and with Peter Strzok and his text messages, and with the Hunter Biden laptop, they were all set against him. You're asking me the question of why didn't Donald Trump order the very parts of his government that he thought were backstabbing the most to help him ensure his coup? Is that what? Just to be clear, that's the question you're asking me?
Yeah, and I'll tell you
okay,
why.
the answer why is because he didn't have any of these people on his side and he knew it. That's why he fired people like Comey. That's why he tried to intimidate and bully every other part of his administration that wouldn't follow him, whether it was Jeff Sessions when he served as temporary attorney general, whether it was his own trying to undermine his own attorney general Barr when he turned against him, whether it was trying to undermine literally every other part of his government that turned against him. Like Donald Trump didn't have any friends anywhere. The idea that he wouldn't turn to other members of the government to help him, like the military or the Secret Service agencies, or not the intelligence agencies, is not only is it like, well, why didn't he do it? Well, it's obvious why he wouldn't do it. It's because he didn't think these people had his back. I think the more difficult question for you is that if he really didn't think that there was going to be like violence at the Capitol, if he really didn't want any of that to happen, why didn't Donald Trump pick up the phone and call anybody to get the National Guard there to protect the Capitol building? When Pence, when Ivanka, when Meadows went in over and over again, when other congressmen were calling him, why is it that when the violence was at its peak, why was it just him, Eastman, and Giuliani making phone calls to other congressmen?
I just want to pause it there. I was under the impression, and I'm going to have to double check it now, but I thought that Trump did actually try to call the National Guard in. I thought that they asked prior to January 6th, the mayor to put extra security there and that the National Guard be present. But I could be wrong. This is something that he's possibly right on.
Congressman to, surprise, surprise, delay the certification of the vote.
Okay, I promise I'm going to answer that, but I want to go back to the question that I posed to you first and the answer that you gave to me. Oftentimes, first of all, if it's true that the leaders of the armed forces and the intelligence community and every one of these armed executive agency branches, even including ATM and all the DEA and all these other ones, all were in the posture that they did not regard themselves as duty bound to follow Donald Trump's orders. If you're somebody, and I don't mean you're saying this had already been the case.
Hold on, can I just real quick, as a friend, you say this. You just as real quick. You keep saying this. Duty bound to follow Trump's orders. The oath that you take is to the Constitution of the United States, not to the President of the United States. Just to be very clear. Go ahead.
You have the right. No, the president is the head of the executive branch. He's the commander in chief of the armed forces,
and he is below the Constitution. He is below the Constitution.
If you are in the military, you are.
This guy Destiny is literally shaking. He's literally shaking. Like this guy is so emotionally invested in this argument that it's a shame, actually. I mean, he needs, I don't know. Anyway.
Duty bound to obey orders. Now, you can object if you think the order is illegal. You do actually have that right. And as I said in my question, I'm sure a lot of them would have done that. But there's no question that there are members of the military and members in these agencies that absolutely were loyal to Trump. And oftentimes what has happened in coups and those sorts of other things is that members of the various military branches or of the try.
From your previous response, and I want to get this clear before we move on. You're saying it's not just January 6th; it's also all the events leading up to it. And that's
I think that's a lot of it, but we don't even have to. We don't even have to.
Is it worth going into it just so we exactly know why you think it's an insurrection or what specific events led up to it?
We can go into that to assign more culpability to Trump, but we don't need that. Just on the events of J6 itself, it is very plainly and clearly obvious, unless you have heavy political motivations to believe otherwise, that what happened was an insurrection. They're just every single element is there, and we can try to pivot with this like, well, usually people do this. I agree that usually people do some things.
So he's actually being a little bit more I guess civil is the word. I don't know if he's recently gone off the deep end when I started following him, so let me just check something here. Let me see if I can find something more recent in case you've never seen this character. This might be. Okay, yeah, let's check this one out.
A one-off thing, and that was Trump's little splurge, and it was like, oh, whatever. Then I would just be saying like, who the And if you want to draw like a calculation for like, oh, well, let's just calculate like one thing and try to figure out like, first of all, you're comparing like the BLM riots, which a lot of their complaints are more rooted in fact than Trump's complaints, which is that there is a lot of unfavorability in our criminal justice system towards minorities. Even if you don't agree
Lauren
with
Southern is so
there's way
chill.
more fact-based arguments there than
She's
there
just
are
like,
with,
okay,
the election
let's
was
let
rigged
this
and stolen
crazy
by,
man
like,
just keep
machines that were
talking.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting. So first, I don't know if you watched my video I did the other day just about the FBI update, essentially saying they couldn't find any solid evidence that there was any plan for an insurrection. Would you? I think you generally agree with that statement, right?
My understanding was that the FBI said that 95% of the individuals didn't seem to have been organized, but it was relatively organic. But I do believe there have been a few people charged with conspiracy. Now, there haven't been any convictions.
Incite a rebellion, which is much different than conspiracy. So obviously motives to incite a rebellion or to take over the country is way, way, way heavier of a charge than just conspiracy, which in some cases, when they're talking about conspiracy in these documents, they're just talking about like general protest planning, right?
Yeah, has anybody been charged with a rebellion charge? Has that been a thing?
No. So this is with.
Sorry, I'm trying to find him popping off because
a lot of the charges that he said he was going to bring publicly.
you know what, this guy used to be like a lot more reasonable. This is actually pretty interesting to me. Okay, so I'm not going to keep looking for Destiny clips where he's popping off and losing his mind. I just remember one that I saw 2 nights ago, and he was literally saying he's going to drink bleach when Lauren Southern was talking because he couldn't handle it. And then he was just calling people names. Maybe he's just reached a point that he understands that, you know, his views are just so starkly different from other people that he can't change their views, no matter how much logic or facts he sends their way, which is fine. But it's just interesting to see his demeanor in these debates, because all the things that he claims he hates about Donald Trump, he exhibits in these debates. So that's neither here nor there, just my opinion. It's the whole point of how I got to looking into the Electoral College, though, which is what this video is about, and what exactly Trump has been accused of on January 6th. Because I'm going to be frank, I didn't even look into it, because like most things that are very much promoted in the mainstream media, I ignore, because I believe they're just generally orchestrated, not organic, and they're only going to highlight things that they want us to believe. So I was interested in this whole Electoral College issue, however. And so let's get to that, because that's the part I think that's interesting. So the first question that I asked ChatGPT was, hold on, let me scroll to the top. Sorry. Let's see here. The first question I asked ChatGPT was, what did Donald Trump ask Pence to do on January 6, 2021? On January 6, 2021, Donald Trump urged Vice President Mike Pence to reject the certification of the Electoral College results during the joint session of Congress. Trump claimed that Pence had the power to overturn the election results in favor of him, despite the established understanding that the vice president's role was largely ceremonial and did not include the authority to alter the outcome. The pressure was part of Trump's broader efforts to contest Joe Biden's victory. I also remember vaguely hearing this, but I was led to believe at the time, and even verified it. So I swear that Google changes its results and answers after a while. But regardless, that this was something that the vice president could do. But it turns out that he can't do it. Now, you can contest, the certification of the Electoral College votes during a joint session of Congress, even on the day, January 6th or whatever day it is that they're being, certified. You can do that, but there's a process that needs to be done. And apparently it's got to be like 1 or 2 members of the House or the Senate that raises, questions. And then based on that, there's debate, etc., which really raises just like other questions for me, but we'll get to that. Has the Vice President of the U.S. ever rejected the certification of the Electoral College results during a joint session of Congress? ChatGPT says no. The Vice President has never rejected the certification of Electoral College results during a joint session of Congress, and again states the Vice President's role is largely ceremonial. Historically, challenges to the results have been raised, but they have not led to a rejection by the Vice President. So there have been challenges in the past. Okay. And if you remember hanging Chad and Al Gore, you remember this. Historically, there have been several what challenges have been raised historically? Historically, there have been several challenges to the certification of Electoral College results. Some notable instances include 1876, disputed results in the election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden led to a major political crisis. A special electoral commission was formed to resolve the dispute and ultimately awarded the presidency to Hayes. So this was a big deal, apparently. In 1876, this occurred. So what did they do? In 1887, the Electoral Count Act was passed. This was passed in response to this controversy, and it outlined procedures for resolving disputes over electoral votes. It has been invoked in subsequent challenges. 1960 election, this is interesting. There were allegations of irregularities in Illinois and Texas during JFK's victory. While challenges were raised, they did not change the outcome. Okay. In 2000, George W. Bush's victory over Al Gore was marred by a Supreme Court decision, Bush v. Gore, which effectively resolved the Florida recount in Bush's favor. This was the first time in modern history the Supreme Court intervened in an election result. So far, our checks and balances and the way that our government is set up has, managed to deal with this without people wanting to, barge into the Capitol. 2007, during the certification of Donald Trump's election, Democratic representatives objected to the results from several states, but these objections did not alter the outcome. So there were Democratic objections when Donald Trump, I bet there were, when he was elected, but it didn't result in anything. And of course, there were no people being led by an anonymous 4chan poster to rush the Capitol. These instances illustrate the complexity and significance. Okay. So how can the certification of the Electoral College vote be challenged? And this is what I was talking about. There are ways to do it. A formal injection during the session of Congress when they go to certify it. So in other words, the day of January 6th, that day, any member of Congress can raise an objection to the results from a specific state. This objection must be in writing and signed by at least one member of both the House and the Senate. So you can raise an objection, and in order for it to be recognized, you need one member from the House and one member from the Senate. So if this is the case, why did Donald Trump not do that? Why did he not find one person from the Senate and from the Congress to do this? I mean, Jim Jordan probably would have helped him out, right? So I'm just wondering, did he consider doing that? Separate debates. If a valid objection is raised, then Congress will split into 2 chambers to debate the objection for up to 2 hours, and each chamber must then vote on whether to uphold or reject the objection. Again, if this is the legitimate way to do it, why is it that Donald Trump did not pursue this avenue? State legislatures. In some cases, state legislatures can also raise questions about the validity of their state's electoral results, although this typically occurs before the certification process in Congress. I feel like I vaguely remember this is what Donald Trump was trying to do. He was trying to get certain state legislatures to raise questions about the validity of the Electoral College votes. These procedures are outlined in the Electoral Count Act of 1887. Okay. So next question, ChatGPT. Could Mike Pence have done the above on January 6, 2021? No, Mike Pence could not have unilaterally rejected the Electoral College results. We knew you were going to say that. While he had the power to oversee the session, his role, again, was largely ceremonial. If challenges were raised, members of Congress could debate and vote on those objections, but Pence himself did not have authority to reject the certifications. His actions were constrained by legal precedent in the Constitution. Okay. Pence publicly stated he believed he did not have the power to alter the outcome of the election. And I believe that he did not. I believe that he did not. So why? Why then someone like Donald Trump, who clearly could find this out more easily than any of us, why then was he pressuring Pence to do that? And in fact, is that what he was pressuring Pence to do? Because again, media, right? Are they telling the truth? Probably not. Could any member of the Congress have challenged the certification of the Electoral College vote on January 6th, 2021? Yes. Any member of Congress could challenge the certification. However, for such a challenge to proceed, it needed to be submitted in writing and signed again by one member from the House and one from the Senate. So why did he not do this? Why did he not get Jim Jordan and, I don't know, somebody, probably not Lindsey Graham, but some senator and a congressman? He couldn't find one congressman and one senator? I feel like he could have. So why did he not? Several objections were raised during that session, leading to okay, wait a minute. Okay, so it does look like this happened. Okay. Objections were raised during that session. Okay, so he did do this. But in the end, the challenges were rejected. All right, so he did do this. And the challenges were rejected, and Joe Biden's victory was confirmed. Okay, so he did do that. I didn't hear that. If vice president role is largely ceremonial, what does this mean? Well, the vice president's role is presiding over the Senate, and he serves as president of the Senate and casts tie-breaking votes, succession to the presidency, the advisory role, task forces, and special projects. Okay, fine. So then I started to think about electors because, they're always telling us to vote. Vote, vote, vote. Every vote counts, right? Every vote counts. But really, when you vote for the president, your vote is not a vote for the president. I mean, if you want to be just very direct about it, you're voting for who you want to be president. But at the end of the day, the electors of the state are the ones who will do the actual voting for who the president is. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. I understand the Electoral College. To me, it makes perfect sense, right? A lot of people want to get rid of it because they think it's tainted or unfair or something. Well, it is, but for a reason different than I think people may understand, or maybe they do. So each state, you go to the population goes and they vote. But if it was just a popular vote, then that means states with larger and more densely populated areas, or, like New York and California, say, or whatever, they would be able to sway a presidential election much more than, say, a small state like Delaware or, Connecticut, say, or something like that, right? And that definitely seems unfair. So that's why they decided to have the Electoral College, so that basically each state has 2 electors based on their Senate seats, and then however many representatives they have in the Congress. And so states that have it's a way of evening the playing field. And so the electors are based on the population of the state. And and so it makes it more fair, so that like a state like even Washington D.C. has 3 electors, and that's tiny, and it's a district, it's not even a state. Okay, so it's a way to make it more fair, and so it doesn't, so a popular vote is not what's electing a president, right? So that means New York and California don't get to decide every 4 years who the president is, because Delaware should have a say as well, right? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, right? This it's statistics, right? You just have to look at statistically. So I thought, okay, so who assigns these electors? Who assigns the electors? Because these are actual people, and we'll get to that too. But these are actual people that vote for the president, and their vote matters. Because if 5 people, in the state of, I don't know, Illinois, vote for President Biden, that's who's actually voting for the president, not the people of Illinois who went to the polls and voted. So what's the point of even voting, right? Well, we'll get to that too. Electors in each state are typically assigned by the political parties. The process generally involves the following steps: political party conventions, state law, and state laws are all very different when it regards to this. During the general elections, voters cast their ballots for candidates, but in most states, the candidate who receives the majority of votes wins all of the state's electoral votes, but not always. Or a formal appointment. The selected electors meet in their state capital to cast their votes for president and vice president. That doesn't seem very democratic, does it? So this allows political parties to have a significant role in determining who serves as an elector. And it also ensures a two-party system. How are you going to get a third party in there? How are you going to get a third party in there if the electors are appointed by the Democratic or Republican Party? It's not even possible. Can electors vote? Here's where it gets interesting. Can electors vote against the popular vote? Yeah, they can. Okay, they can. Electors can technically vote against the popular vote, but it's subject to state laws. Most states have laws requiring electors to pledge to vote for the candidate who wins the state's popular vote. Okay, that's fair. But why don't they all require them? A few states do not have such laws, allowing electors the discretion to vote as they choose. They're called faithless electors. And so if you live in a state that has 5 electoral college votes, I don't know if that's a number of a state, but I'm sure there's different numbers, 5, 3, 2, whatever it is. If you live in a state that has 5 electoral votes and your state's popular vote voted for President Biden, that means you have 5 votes towards the total of the electoral votes, to vote for the presidency for your state. Well, what if 3 people were appointed by someone who hates Joe Biden, who thinks he's the worst president ever, and they're faithless electors, meaning they're beholden to no one. They can do what they want. More likely they're getting paid to do some other person's bidding, but regardless. And they're like, no, fuck this. I'm gonna 3 of us are voting for Biden. I mean, for Trump. Can that happen? It can happen. It can happen. So why then are we encouraged to go vote at the polls? Instances of faithless electors who do not vote for their pledged candidate have occurred, but they are rare. Are they though? Some states have imposed penalties on faithless electors. Ultimately, electors have the theoretical, meaning they have the ability to vote against the popular vote. Practical and legal mechanisms can constrain them. So then I ask the obvious question. Why are electors people? Why are electoral college votes not auto-assigned? In other words, this state, we'll use an example of, say, California. I don't know how many electoral college votes, but let's say California has 8 electoral college votes or 10, let's say 10 electoral college votes, right? Has 10 electoral college votes. then why? Because if they have 10, that's their amount to contribute to, the president of the United States, who becomes the president. Why are they people and not just like an entity, say, or it's just like, why is it not auto assigned? In other words, the popular vote in California, all the popular votes voted for President Biden. Therefore, 8 or 10 of their electoral college votes go to Biden automatically. Why are you allowing people to come in and muddy that up? That makes zero sense to me. And that screams a big, like that makes me believe that it's highly corruptible, right? It's highly corruptible. So, so the answer ChatGPT gives to me is this, and this is where the gaslighting starts. The Electoral College was established for several reasons. The framers sought to balance the influence of populous states with less populous states. That makes sense. The Electoral College ensures that smaller states have a meaningful voice in the election process. Agreed. Federalism. The system reflects the federal structure of the U.S., recognizing the role of states in the election process. Each state's electors correspond to its number of congressional representatives, maintaining connection between state and federal governance. Fair. Preventing regionalism. The Electoral College encourages candidates to campaign across a diverse range of states, rather than focusing solely on heavily populated urban areas. That makes sense. Historical compromise. The compromise between those who wanted direct popular elections and those who feared the influence of populous states resulted in the Electoral College. This all makes sense to me. And this is why the Electoral College is, in my opinion, a good thing. But while the idea of signing electoral votes based solely on popular votes might simplify the process, it could also lead to the marginalization of smaller states and increased focus on urban centers. Wait a minute, what? That doesn't make any sense. Whether 5 people are submitting 5 electoral votes or 5 electoral votes are auto-assigned based on the popular vote, it's the same thing. The difference is the human factor. The human factor can fuck it up because a human can come in, or 5 of them can come in and say, we're not voting for the popular vote. So don't gaslight me like that, ChatGPT, please. If a state has 5 electoral votes, why do we need people? Why not award the votes based on auto assignment? This would control for population difference and exclude the population possibility of faithless electors. That's what I asked ChatGPT. And this is how it responded. Awarding electoral votes based on a state's popular vote rather than assign them to electors could be a problem. And once again, it goes through its bullshit gaslighting about they'll just focus on the popular states. That's not what I'm saying, ChatGPT, and I think you know that. So 2 of 5 electors could vote against the popular vote? I asked ChatGPT. Yes, if a state has 5 electoral votes, theoretically 2 of those electors could vote against the popular vote, assuming there are no state laws binding them. We already know that, but we already know there's enough states out there that don't have those laws. However, most states have the laws. Okay. ChatGPT is trying to soothe me right now because it realizes that I'm sort of looking at something that is a major flaw in this system. In states without such laws, electors are technically free to choose whom they want to vote for president, leading to the possibility of faithless electors. Well, this is where it can happen. We know that, ChatGPT. You've said it ultimately many, many times. Right, I said. So how is assigning the electoral votes as a function of the population of the state and number of representatives harmful? And again, it goes into the whole thing because I didn't word it specifically enough. So then I said, assigning states electoral votes, but not giving people the ability to vote as electors and instead making it auto assignment is not the same as a popular vote. Correct. Now I'm going to nail you into a corner, ChatGPT. We're boxing and I'm getting you in the ropes. Okay. Correct. Assigning states electoral votes automatically based on popular vote would not be the same as direct popular vote system. And it says, here's how they differ. And we already know how they differ. It's pretty straightforward. So it says, so then I said, if there were no faithless electors, this is supposedly how the system would work, correct? So do politicians assume faithless electors are a given? Yes, it says, if there were no faithless electors, the system would function in a straightforward manner, with electors pledging to vote for the candidate who wins their state's popular vote. Why the fuck is it not like that to begin with? Why is it not like, help me out here. Like, why is it that just not a given? Assumption of compliance. Politicians generally operate under the assumption electors will vote as pledged. That's not a good idea, not in politics. State laws have required electors to vote that way, but not all of them. Campaign strategy. Candidates often focus on winning the majority of electoral votes and may not heavily emphasize the potential for faithless electors since it's generally viewed as an anomaly. Well, if it's viewed as an anomaly, then why would they campaign differently if it was auto-assigned? You're contradicting yourself. So I said, if that's the case, would it not be the same if electoral votes were auto-assigned rather than up to humans making literal votes? Yes, she concedes. If electoral votes were assigned automatically based on popular vote without human electors, it would simplify the process. Here are some implications. Direct reflection of popular vote. Okay. Elimination of human error. Perfect. Streamlined process. Great. Consistency outcomes. It said such a system would effectively align with a more direct democratic approach, ensuring that the Electoral College results mirror the popular vote more closely. And remember, this is not the same as having a popular vote because you're taking into consideration the size of the states and how many Electoral College votes they get. Why is this not the way it's done? I'm so pissed about this, actually. What potential challenges or drawbacks do you see in implementing auto assignment of electoral votes? Because I want to know who's pushing back on this. State sovereignty, it says. The current system reflects the federal structure of the U.S. by changing to auto assignment. States may feel their influence diminished. Okay, that's fair. All right, now I'm starting to see a little bit of the argument. If a state does not want to concede that someone is president, they can convince their electors to vote against the popular vote. That being said, I don't believe a state will do that because if the whole state doesn't want a president, it's not going to be I somewhat understand this argument, but it still makes no sense because the popular vote of the people in that state, if Texas popular vote says Joe Biden and all the electors vote for Trump. First of all, these things may not even affect what the outcome is overall, but they could. They definitely could. And the people of Texas with the popular vote are not going to be happy with their state. So it doesn't make sense to me. No. You tried to gaslight me, ChatGPT. I'm not falling for it. It goes again into the regional disparities in population. We already took care of that with the electoral vote. My issue is, why is it not auto-assigned? Why are you leaving it up to people? Talk about campaign strategies. Confusion. No, it would not be confusing. It would be a lot less confusing. Here's a good one, though. It would erode the two-party system. Erosion of the two-party system. An auto assignment might encourage more third-party candidates to run, complicating the electoral landscape and potentially leading to outcomes that some might view as less stable. You don't say. Bingo. There's the answer. They don't want to assign They don't want to auto assign electoral college votes to states because they want to control it so that there are only two parties. So all the people that want to know, all the people that want to understand, why do we still only have a two-party system? It's because of this. If states felt a diminished sovereignty, does this not imply they consider faithless electors a powerful tool? Right? Like if a state's going to say, well, we're going to feel less sovereign if you do this bullshit, well, then the state is essentially saying that faithless electors are powerful. Yes, it says the perception of diminished state sovereignty could imply that some states view faithless electors as a tool to maintain a degree of influence over the electoral process. Here's how it unfolds. Control over electors. Faithless electors provide states with a mechanism to assert their preferences at the national level, even if they feel overshadowed by larger states in a direct popular vote. That is still bullshit, ChatGPT. No, they're asserting their preferences at a national level against the will of their population in their state. Stop it. Stop gaslighting. Political leverage. Here we go. The possibility of electors voting differently than pledged can serve as a political leverage point for states. And they can reflect local interests regardless of national trends. And their resistance to change. That one's easy. Everybody's got resistance to change. Overall, faithless electors could be seen as both a safeguard of states' interests and a potential source of contention. Yeah, no shit. In discussions about the electoral reform. How about this? I'm really trying to narrow her down on this. If candidates would shift strategy based on auto electoral assignment, does this not imply that candidates encourage faithless electors to vote in their favor? It's possible that candidates may perceive faithless electors as a potential advantage, but it's important to clarify a few points. So let's see what we got. Understanding faithless electors. Candidates generally focus on winning the pledged electoral votes based on the popular vote. The occurrence of faithless, it says this again, and yet it keeps saying, but if we did that before, she kept saying, if we did that, it would change the way candidates candidate. Are they saying politicians are that dumb? I mean, it is possible. Campaigning strategy. Again, no, it doesn't work that way, though. If it's an auto electoral vote, it should not affect the way that people campaign. The impact of auto assignment. If electoral votes were assigned automatically, candidates would likely shift their efforts to maximize overall support across the country, potentially reducing the focus on specific. Why? If that's the case, then you are saying there's a difference between auto assigned electoral college votes and people being electors, which means despite ChatGPT continuing to say that faithless electors are rare and they can be penalized and all this other bullshit, that they clearly have an impact on the psyche of politicians. Clearly. So I write, that seems contradictory because you've specified above that candidates would shift their campaign strategies as if there were auto electoral assignment. Is there another potential reason other than faithless electors being considered by these candidates? Finally, she concedes, you're correct that the dynamics can be contradictory. Here are some additional reasons they may consider beyond just faithless electors. Again, she gives the lame, stop it. She gives the lame response about they're focusing on populous areas. No, I will not accept that. Campaign efficiency. With auto assignment, candidates might prioritize outreach in regions where they can. No, ChatGPT, you're still trying to gaslight. But Candidates might adopt broader national strategies that resonate with a diverse electorate, knowing that every vote counts directly toward the total without the intermediary of electors. Well, hell, that would be fucking great, wouldn't it? An auto system could encourage candidates to prioritize voter turnout efforts across the entire electorate, emphasizing local issues that matter to diverse communities. And candidates might form new coalitions or alliances with groups that can mobilize large voter bases. All of this sounds really positive. So I wrote, but don't candidates currently focus on states with high electoral distributions? Yes, they do. So then why are you still doing this? Then it says, well, swing states though. Candidates often concentrate on swing states. Those can be reasonably won by either party because these states can tip the electoral balance. How? Swing states. So there are specific swing states that could either go Democrat or Republican, because we can't have more than two parties when we've got these electors in there that have been pledged. You've got to get an elector in there that's pledged to a third party in order to elect a third party president in this country, or it's never going to happen. That's the problem. This is how they keep us in a two-party system. In summary, the current electoral system incentivizes candidates to focus on high electoral states, shaping their campaign strategies. Okay, so how would the auto assignment of electoral votes change that? Again, it goes into the broader blah, 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 blah. It's trying to conflate auto assigned electoral college votes with popular votes, and that is not the case. You're not fooling me, ChatGPT. Okay. So then it says, overall auto assignment could lead to a more inclusive campaigning approach, encouraging candidates to consider the preferences of voters across the entire nation rather than concentrating efforts in specific states. Isn't that what the Electoral College was designed to do? The whole point is to avoid them from campaigning just in specific states like swing states or heavily populated states. That's what the Electoral College was designed to do, was to level the playing field. But because it's not auto-assigned electoral votes, it doesn't work. I said, would this not be a more truthful outcome of what citizens want? And it says yes. Auto-assignment electoral votes based on the popular vote would lead to a more accurate reflection of citizens' preferences for several reasons. Direct representation, because then every vote would count toward the electoral outcome. Right now, your vote does not count toward the electoral outcome. It does not count for the presidency. You could have your entire state, 99% of the people, vote for President Trump. And you could have 5 electors, and 2 or 3 of them can vote for Biden or Harris or whoever the Democratic nominee is. So your vote does not count. They're full of shit. Broader engagement. Candidates would need to appeal to a wider array of voters, addressing diverse interests. And then higher turnout, because people would say, yes, my vote does count. Because I think a lot of people, whether they know the particulars of it, have a feeling that no, my vote does not count. And that's how I felt for a while. And I didn't know why. I had my own reasons for it. But now I know why. There's a reason why people don't feel like their vote counts. It would, oh, holy shit, it would reduce polarization. A system that emphasizes nationwide popular support. It might mitigate partisan polarization, encouraging candidates to adopt more moderate positions to attract a broader base. You see what I'm saying? They don't want to fix things. And don't tell me a constitutional amendment to this would be impossible, because if people understood it, you can explain it so easily. People understood it. Of course, they would prefer this. It would be a clearer mandate. The outcome of elections would likely reflect a clearer mandate, reinforcing the legitimacy of the presidency. Okay. So then I said, it seems as though faithless electors, despite being rare, have a lot of influence over the psyche of political candidates. Do you agree? Yes, she says. Faithless electors, despite their rarity, can influence political landscape and their strategies because there's risk, there's uncertainty, their messaging and engagement, their public perception, avoiding controversies because they know that faithless electors can lead to disputes and challenges. Overall, while faithless electors are not common, we already know that. Their potential impact on the electoral process and candidate strategies is significant, shaping how candidates approach their campaign. So you can see that auto electoral assignment is not the same thing as popular vote, correct? Yes, that's correct. Auto electoral assignment based on the popular vote would not be the same as a direct popular vote. Thank you. When is the last time faithless electors have impacted a presidential candidacy? This is interesting. The last notable instance of faithless electors impacting a presidential candidacy occurred during the 2016 election. Donald Trump. And here's how. 2016 election. This election, several electors did not vote for the candidate to whom they were pledged. For instance, 3 Democratic electors chose not to vote for Hillary Clinton. I wonder who those people are. Are they still above ground? Impact on the results. Although the electors' actions did not change the outcome, they drew significant media attention and raised discussions about the legitimacy of the Electoral College system. So we don't want to get rid of the Electoral College system. We want to change something. We want to make it an auto-assigned Electoral College vote. And legal reactions. The actions of the faithless electors in 2016 prompted some states to reconsider their laws regarding this binding, but they didn't do that. The actions of those in 2016 highlight vulnerabilities and sparked ongoing debate. Okay. Prior to 2016, when was a president elected due to faithless electors? The most significant instance of faithless electors affecting the outcome of a presidential election occurred in 1976. In this election, Gerald Ford, running against Jimmy Carter, received 270 electoral votes. However, one elector from D.C. cast a vote for Ronald Reagan instead of Ford. Impact. Well, this incident did not change the outcome. Carter won with 297 electoral votes. It was one of the few notable occurrences of faithless electors influencing the electoral process, but not the overall presidency. Who chooses electors? I said. Well, they're chosen by political parties in each state, either at a state party convention, a state party commission, or what they should be done is at a public election, but I don't even think they should have them, period. What states allow faithless electors to go unpunished? Alaska, Arizona, California, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Vermont, and West Virginia. And all of those states, the electors in those states can vote against what the popular vote was in their state, and they will be unpunished. How many electors are there in the United States? The total is 538. This number is from 435 electors from the House of Representatives based on population, 100 from the Senate, 2 from each state, and 3 from the District of Columbia. So to win the presidency, a candidate must receive a majority, which is 270. And so why does Washington, D.C. have 3 electors? It was the 23rd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. This is all stuff they probably taught me in high school, and I don't remember. I don't know. So Who chooses the DC electors? It doesn't want to tell me. It just says it's political parties. But interestingly enough, people in DC have always been Democratic electors, always the Democratic Party. Have the Washington, D.C. electors ever changed the outcome of a presidential election? No. Since they gained electors in 64, it is voted for the Democratic candidate in every presidential election. So since 1964, when Washington, D.C. received its 3 Electoral College votes, those electors have voted every single time for the Democratic candidate. I wonder if that means every single time the popular vote was Democratic. I didn't ask her that. Why is it called District of Columbia? I started to go off on a different tangent. This is what happens when you have a brain like this, right? ADD. It's just like, it's called a district because it's a federal territory. Why is it of Columbia? Well, apparently, I didn't know this. Did you guys know this? Apparently, Columbia was the name originally used quite often for America because Christopher Columbus founded America, which that's bullshit. But that's really weird, right? Maybe woke culture should know that District of Columbia needs a new name because it comes from Christopher Columbus. And since they're tearing down statues of Christopher Columbus, had they considered that the District of Columbia is not aligning with their values? Me personally, doesn't make a difference. I'm just saying. So that's my little spiel. And I've had many conversations with ChatGPT. And the next conversation will be on September 11th. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you look forward to it. I hope you learned something. I hope I made it clear and just reinforces to me why I'm not voting. All right. See you guys later. Peace. Oh, let me just put one banner up here to protect the fact that this is just all my opinion and speculation, guys. Nobody get all worked up over it, okay? And then let's just play some music for the outro.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make.
Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better. See, I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet next to me.
I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So
what?
You can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
What? Oh my God, this is, guys, that's a jam. All right, guys, peace out.